Welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host. I got Austin Medlin here joining us today. He is a closer and he teaches people how to close not only to like 30, 40%, which is the average, but taking people up to 70 to 80%. He has a program that he's been able to build over 100,000 plus a month and helped a lot of people get to that place because of sales being the number one leading lagging indicator of a business is sales. So we're going to talk a lot about that. Stay till the end too. We're going to talk about a lot of tactics around lead generation, a lot about building sales teams, a lot of tactics about how he's been able to generate a lot of leads and close a lot of deals. So we're going to be able to touch on some of those things. Before we do, down below in the show notes, there's a free workshop that everybody needs to listen to and to watch. If you're wanting to build an online brand, know how to leverage ads, build a sales team, buy back your time to really kind of help you build a life that you want of impact, check that workshop down below. It's going to be my gift to you. Austin, as we dive into it, one of the questions I ask everybody is, what is high performance? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, I think high performance looks a little bit different to everybody, but I think only an individual knows what they're actually capable of doing. And I think that we all have kind of stories and beliefs that we fight for that are definitely limiting and keeping us kind of stuck where we're at or not reaching our full potential. High performance would be, what is the highest version of you do? How many hours do they sleep? How intentional are they with their family? What kind of tenacity do they put behind their work, whether it's with prospects, with clients, with people on their team? And only you really know that peak operating level and potential that you have. High performance would be hitting that level as on the dot or as close to it as possible, as many days in a row as you can do.
That's good, man. Talk to the listeners here. They want to know a little bit more about you, and you're better than my intro. Give it some people under some understanding of like what you do and how you serve people.
Yeah. So very simply, like I'm kind of branded as like the sales guy. That looks like two different things. I have a B2B and a B2C side. B2B is working with coaches. Most of them are around 20 to 50,000 a month. They're looking to scale. So we need to raise the price. We definitely need to raise the close rate and then build systems, automations, operations, leadership, build a team, et cetera. And we help them scale. The one thing I don't teach is marketing. So if somebody has a marketing problem, I'm not the guy. They can work with you. They can work with a lot of other people. It's just not me. Once they have the marketing figured out, we need to be closing at 60, 70, 80%, charging what we're actually worth, optimizing the offer so we can keep scaling. So that's kind of on the B2B side. On the B2C side, I teach people with sales experience how to break into the world of remote high ticket. Most people that are in sales have a boss they don't like. They're capped in terms of their income and commissions. They're dealing with corporate politics and political structures of just like big America in terms of sales, like corporate sales, B2B sales, software tech, things like that. Or they're going door to door. They're making 300 cold calls a day. Like sales is good. It's the highest paid profession on planet Earth, but not all sales vehicles are created equally.
That's right.
Remote high ticket sales has been what I found to be the fastest way for any ambitious person with a little bit of sales skill and experience to walk in the door and very quickly start making 15, 20, 30 plus $1,000 per month from the comfort of their own home. When I was a closer, I was working 4 days a week, making 30,000 a month plus. Not a bad job, not a bad life. I could travel if I wanted, which I don't really like to do, but I could if I wanted. I could work from anywhere in the world, set my own hours, work my own days, and then I didn't have to do marketing, fulfillment, knock doors, cold call. The leads came to me. I just took the Zoom call and educated them on the program and the product, collected a credit card, made a commission, on to the next.
Yeah, man. Yeah, sales is a really, really great vehicle. I know it personally, so it's really good. I want to ask you some more around that here in a minute here, but talk to us about like the origin story of some of this, man. Like, how did you get into sales and now teaching it, getting into even the coaching world too?
Yeah. I've been in sales my whole life. Like when I was a little kid, 3, 4, 5 years old, door to door with boxes of raisins out of the pantry. Like quite literally born doing sales. I always wanted to start businesses where I'd start like when I was very young, I started a weed business. So I'd go to my neighbors and knock on their doors and ask to pull the weeds out of their grass and their garden for 50 bucks, like selling candy in school. I did network marketing. I've just always been in sales. But again, that led to frustration because I had this crazy ambition of what I wanted to do and the money I wanted to make, but I never had a sales vehicle that was in direct alignment with that ambition that could actually deliver me what I was looking for. And then towards the end of 2019, I was running a landscape company that I took over from my dad. I did about 1.2 million in sales in about 10 months. And it was fine, man. But I'm driving my truck around. I'm shaking hands. I'm meeting people in the Florida sun. It's hot. It's dirty. It's not a sexy industry. I was like, I don't want to do this. I have 32 employees, 600 clients that we serve every single week, 10 trucks, tons of overhead and payroll. So I quit that. No 2 weeks. I was that burnt out. I told my dad, I was like, you got to take the company back. Like, I'm out. Sorry. And then got into the world of like remote high ticket and the coaching space, which I really didn't even know existed before then. Because if I did, I probably would have done it sooner. But I got into it and actually was a coach first. My ex and I started a program together. And then when we stopped doing that, I became a closer and just started wearing the hat of closing sales. Took 7,000 sales calls, got pretty dang good at closing deals and making commissions. And then eventually at the end of 2023, transitioned into my own company, closesales.com.
That's cool, man. I feel like there's a lot of shift for people, and you actually did coaching first, but the shift from doing like service-based business or being in someone's world and then shifting into like coaching is a different mind paradigm, because it's like you're not only starting a business, but it's like a different way of approach on that. Like, what I know for me, what that looked like for sure when someone told me, like, hey, you just got to start coaching people. And that was really hard, shifting from a service-based business to coaching. I'm not hard, but it was different perspective, should say. What was that like for you?
I think the difference is like, if you're saying service based is like when I was doing landscape, that was a service based business. It's just like sales was just different, man. Like sales in that industry, like they were always shopping around. 99% of them always wanted the lowest price. Like we're planting plants in the grass. It's like, it's not that difficult. They just needed somebody reliable to show up and do the work. So it's very much like how much they liked you, and that crushed me when I got into remote high ticket sales, because in this world, it's not how much people like you, it's how much they trust you to change their life by buying whatever program it is that you're selling. And so in the very beginning, it was super difficult in terms of like closing deals. And then after the third month, I kind of figured it out. I was like, oh, I don't need people to like me. I need them to trust me. And the way that they trust me is to be neutral, to not be up here. Oh my gosh, Nathan, it's so good to see you. How are you? And we build 10 minutes of rapport. So after about 90 days of getting crushed, when I cracked that code, that's when everything got really good. Close rate went up, commissions went up, things were fine. And then transitioning from being a closer into a full time business owner and coach, that was a super easy transition because I was already leading sales teams. I was already coaching. Like I'd coached hundreds of people before I officially started my company because I'd built so many sales teams. And while I was building sales teams, random people were hitting me up like, hey, could you give me some coaching? And I'm like, 5 grand for 10 calls. And they're like, great, send me an invoice. And I'm like, I don't even have a payment processor, but like I figured it out and I was already kind of doing some coaching B2B on the side and then doing the B2C, building up the sales team. So that transition was super easy. Landscape to online was decently difficult for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. There's different like sales conversations. To get your take on this, of the questions you ask for a B2B, offer versus B2C. What's kind of the differences that you've seen with some of those call frames?
Logical and emotional. Like B2B is very, and I'm not saying this is the 100% guarantee the only way. So I want to preface that. But from what I've seen from being on B2B and B2C, B2B is typically ROI, logical. If I spend X, I get Y. This makes sense, computes in my brain. B2B is almost always way more sophisticated buyers. They've been on sales calls, they've joined other programs, they've made other investments. They just want to see a clear shot with confidence that if I spend this, I get that. Where B2C is typically unsophisticated buyers, probably have never invested in themselves before. And if they have, maybe it was a long time ago, maybe it was like 500 bucks a month, something super inexpensive. They just don't know what they don't know. So you really have to have that emotional component that's going to override the logical side of their brain, because the business owners don't need that. It's like they don't need to be emotionally in love with you. They just need to see the path of ROI. Where B2C, these people, the consumers, unsophisticated, haven't been on a lot of calls, their brain freaks out when you tell them the program's 3K, 5K, 20K. They can't fathom spending that amount of money. So you have to have that really strong emotional connection to them, which is going to override the logical piece of their brain and then ultimately get them to buy. So I think those are the two
I
distinctive.
agree. I agree. Yeah, I want to kind of get your take on this. There's a lot of people doing sales coaching. You got, Cole Gordon, you got Jeremy Miner, you got, the objection box guy, Bill something. There's a lot of like big ones out there, right? But they have a lot of like they lean towards certain ways of approaching sales. Like Jeremy Miner seems to be like a lot of B2C focus. Andy Elliott, really B2C. I feel like people are shifting more of like you almost have to stand out as a B2B or B2C, rep in a way, or a lot of experience with one of those to get into that. And I feel like the B2B is more of the higher ticket offer, like someone that's starting out B2C, navigation is perfect and layup for them to get their, feet wet within the sales world. And then they can level up to B2B because it's a little more specific questions with the, logical side of it. What do you feel like is the take on some of those other people out there compared to how you walk people through things? Because I've seen some of your stuff, Austin, and it's definitely a little bit different on how you approach and how you kind of build out the call frame and everything like that. Love to just get your take on how you walk through that.
Yeah. Well, I think the three people you named are really good at what they do, right?
Hmm.
I think you might have named four: Andy, Bill, Cole, Jeremy. I think all of them are great at what they do. I think the difference between me and most is a couple of things. Number one, I am not a sales generalist. So if you're in insurance or you go door to door and you sell pest control, you sell cars, you sell memberships at a gym, probably way better people at coaching you than me. I am a sales specialist in terms of the online high ticket coaching space, whether that's B2B, B2C, whether you're an agency, whatever. If you're selling something digitally over the internet on a Zoom call, I'd say I'm one of the best in the world at that. And the reason I say that is because I actually took 7,000 one-to-one high ticket sales calls, and I still actively take sales calls to this day. I took 8 of them this week. And I close currently at a 94 to 95% close rate every single month, which is kind of expected because I'm teaching sales. So, like, obviously, I get an objection. I'm like, hey, is that a real objection? Are you just curious how I'm going to handle that? So, I kind of have a leg up. But even when I was a sales rep, I was closing 60, 70% month over month on 10K plus products on totally cold traffic. So, I actually did the thing, and I'm not just sales. I'm sales for high ticket coaches, consultants, agency owners, like digital world. So that's what kind of sets me apart. Second thing is by taking 7,000 sales calls, rich people, poor people, tall people, short people, people in America, Canada, US, like everywhere, like literally all over the world. If they have credit cards in that country, I've probably spoken to them and tried to sell them something. When you talk to 7,000 people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different parts of the earth, you start to notice patterns and trends with 7,000 hours in the trenches with different people. I've taken all of those patterns and trends, dumbed them down to the basic principles of human psychology, and that's how I teach my method. I don't teach my method based on, I think this will work, or I read this in a book one time, or it worked for me one week, so it'll probably work for you. It's just human psychology of how humans make buying decisions. So we align their head and their heart to get them to buy on the first call with little to no objections. That's how I do it. That way it's fact, not fiction or opinion, or it worked for this guy. Hopefully it works for you. And then at the same time, like you look at somebody like Bill, I think there's no one better at handling objections. This program is called the objections box. My methodology is the opposite. I don't want to handle objections. I would rather proactively handle those objections during discovery, get them all out on the table, handle every single one of them ahead of my pitch. Because when you handle things proactively, you appear helpful. When you handle things reactively, you come off as salesy. When you come off as salesy, people will still buy, but they're going to have more buyer's remorse. They're going to have more chargebacks and refunds, and they're going to demand way more from the program and expect the world because they got sold. They didn't make the decision to buy. So you also have to think of the repercussions when you kind of arm someone with really sophisticated objection handling. They end up buying, but really they got sold. And then they have crazy expectations coming into the program. They want the world from you. They're way hotter on the trigger to refund or charge back. So it's just a different dynamic of like how we move somebody from totally cold to credit card at the end of the call.
It's good. It's good. I want to kind of shift and asking. sales management. Leadership is a whole nother skill set, right? And not everybody has it. And I feel like there's so many times that people have tried and failed, being in sales roles and then transition to sales management. And it's just another skill, right? And I think sometimes people give up too early, even if they have tried management and leadership before. It's just something that they're not the best at because this is the first time they're really trying it, right? Talk about some of those things that you've seen have been the best sales managers or things that you've learned along those journeys of being a good leader that really kind of helps create that culture of good salespeople. Because just because you've read a leadership book doesn't mean that you're good for sales either. Like the sales team leadership roles are a little bit different than any other leadership roles I could think of. But I'd
So
love
the
to get
answer
your
to
take on that.
this is quite literally why my sales process works so well. It's the exact same answer. And the answer is humans are dynamic. You're different than me. I'm different than everyone who lives on my street, my family, my own blood. Like I'm radically different than all of them. And so if we can all agree, which I think is just a fact, humans are dynamic. Some are masculine, some are feminine, some are right in the middle. Some are quick to make decisions, some are super slow to make decisions and very skeptical. So, like, if humans are dynamic, there is no one script that's going to work for one offer. So, if humans are dynamic on a sales front, humans are also dynamic when you're building a team. And so the best leaders are able to flex and bend to meet their team where they're at, and they meet them where they're at in different ways individually, and then have to get really good at coaching as a collective, knowing what is going to benefit the most people at once. Because when you're coaching as a collective, if you have 20 people on your team, if you just say one statement, it's going to land really well with some of your team and not land at all with the other bit of your team. So, how do we deliver messages that are fluid enough that resonate with everyone? That's why my sales process works so well because I don't give somebody a script. I teach them human psychology and a framework, but that framework is going to bend and flex slightly depending on the prospect that you're talking to. So,
Mhm.
people who, even if you're really good at sales, doesn't mean you're good at leadership because you got to be able to understand people and you have to think of the optics 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'll give you an example. So on my B2C side, I have a client, his name's Jason, in that B2C side, and he's a closer. And his company has really been struggling with the lead flow for the past couple of weeks, which obviously isn't fun as a closer because that means you have way less opportunity. That means your income is down. So he's been really like talking about it, talking about it. I'm like, listen, they're going to figure it out. Just support the team. Let them figure it out. You'll be fine. Well, he posted yesterday in the Wins channel and it just said, thank God. And it had a screenshot of his CEO saying, hey guys, we got the ads turned on. They went live, like giving an update. And then he had responded to that message and said something like, it's about time. And so, and that was his win. He was excited about it. And so I commented and said, hey, glad the ads are back on, but pay attention to your energy during these times. As a CEO, as the leader of your company and your team, someone who's been working around the clock for weeks trying to fix the problem because their income is down too, they don't want someone on their team to be like, it's about time. So I rewrote him a message and said, why don't you go delete that message and send this one instead? And that message said, hey, I think it's CEO's Mike or whatever. Hey, Mike, really appreciate you working around the clock on this. Thank you so much for getting the ads online. Once you get leads on my calendar, I will go to war and close them. Let's scale, let's grow, whatever it was. That's leadership. And he's not in a leadership position, but that's how he leads himself to be a better sales rep and a better asset to a team. So you do the same thing in a leadership position where the way that we speak to people and the optics behind it radically important. Because if you say one thing the wrong way, you might tank their energy and their close rate for the rest of the day, week, month. Maybe they quit or get fired because of that downward spiral that you started because you were kind of careless on how you spoke to them. It's like hyper
Yeah.
awareness, dude. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot to be able to do it. There's a lot of intuition. There's a ton of hyper awareness. And if you're not willing to be hyper aware in every conversation, on every call, every Slack message, leadership just isn't for you.
And I think it comes down to, like we talked about even, off podcast here, is that life comes down to mindset in a lot of ways and how you lead yourself, let alone people. And we talked about how sales is really a mental game, like you're talking about, because there's some chess pieces with some different dynamics, like we're talking about, with how that play is down. Talk about some of that mental capacity of discipline and fortitude, because I think there's some relentlessness that sales has, because you're being rejected more often than you're succeeding. There's the grind of like showing up with, being ready, right? I think there's the exercise is a big component of getting the dopamine up. Like, talk to us about how that's so important and how someone can really take hold of that in control of what they can, the controllables of controllable.
Well, the reason it's important is super simple. Like, you can't control things outside of your control. So you could go to war on a sales call. You could do everything right. You could nail your script or framework. You could do all the things. That doesn't guarantee that the prospect buys, right? If you get on a call and maybe the application looks great, and then you get on a call and it's a total train wreck, like, you can only control your energy and your confidence and your cadence and your tonality, and like your inputs is all you can really control. But we're dealing with humans that are unpredictable and dynamic. We don't really know until we have the conversation. So you can't control them, but you can control how you react to them. And what I think happens to most people in the world of sales is they take one call that doesn't go their way, that doesn't end up in the result that they want. And then they bleed that negative energy and that frustration into the next call, which then tanks the next call. And then it compounds. And then those two go to the third, which goes to the fourth and the fifth. And a bad call turns into a bad day, which turns into a bad week, which turns into a bad month. And then they quit or get fired.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's 5 words: water on a duck's back. That's the easiest way to visualize how I live, not just in sales, but my entire life. And the feathers on a duck are super oily. That way they can go swim in the water. And then if they didn't have oil on their feathers when they got out of the water, they'd be too heavy to fly. So the feathers are super oily, so they can just shake. All the water flies right off because water doesn't stick to oil. And then with a little bit of a shake, they're pretty much dry. And then they can go take off and they can fly. That's how I live my entire life. Like, I had like the stories will pop up from like a year ago, like, hey, you have a memory to look back on.
Yeah.
I had a memory this morning that popped up and I looked at it, and it was me, and the caption said water on a duck's back. And it was me walking out of my house, walking up to my truck, and the tire was like dead flat. Like, not like, oh, you could patch it. Like, it was on the rim, like just dead flat. And in the video, I'm just laughing about it. And then in the next story was me renting a Ferrari. This is before I had my McLaren. It was me renting a Ferrari, and it said flat tire on my truck, question mark, excuse to rent a supercar. Like, that's how unbothered I am just in everyday life. If I get in a car crash, if I get a speeding ticket, if something doesn't go my way, flight gets delayed, water on a duck's back. It's out of my control. I can only control how I react to it. And because I practice that in my everyday life, I radically bring that into my sales career. One call didn't go my way. Awesome. Let me push my next call 5 minutes, tell them I'm going to be 5 minutes late, go for a quick walk around the block, shake it off, and then put the next call in its own universe so I don't bleed that negativity into the next call, because now I'm robbing a prospect of their opportunity to have their life changed. And that's not fair to them. And it's not fair to my bank account and my income. So I got to shake it off, water on a duck's back. We're on to the next one. And then we just show up and do our best. And if I get punched in the face 8 hours straight, 0 closes, 8 calls in a day, is what it is. That's what I signed up for in sales. Get better, take responsibility, shake it off, get a good night's sleep. And we wake up the next day, we grab our shield, we grab our spear, and we go back to war like nothing happened the day before.
Talk about gratefulness
It's my favorite.
within all this.
It's my
Yeah, I
favorite.
remember seeing a video of you. you know, this is hard for guys to talk about, but it was like you're almost getting teared up in a way, because you realize where you're at compared to a few years back.
Gratitude kills all negative emotions. If you're feeling burnt out, you probably would have killed to have the amount of work that you have on your plate 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 10 years ago. You've probably dreamt, you've probably prayed to be where you are today. And now that you're finally here, If you just had gratitude for what you've accomplished, you wouldn't feel burnt out. If you had like today, you're my ninth meeting. I have one more after this. I was feeling a little tired midday. And then I just sat there and I smiled and I was like, dude, a year ago, I had no calls on my calendar. I wasn't broke, but I wasn't doing what I'm doing now. My impact was way smaller. And I just had immense amounts of gratitude for the opportunity to show up and serve in my community on this podcast, all of my energy right back. So, like, I must once a week minimum. It used to be 3 times a week. Then I hired a fitness coach and I had to kind of like slow it down a little bit. Once a week, dinner by myself. If you're married, you should go to dinner by yourself once a week. If you have kids, you should go to dinner by yourself once a week. If you're single, you should go to dinner by yourself once a week. I go to dinner by myself and I sit there wherever I want to go for an hour and I just sit there and I'm grateful for the day, for the week, for my clients. I just think deeply. It's like uninterrupted time, but I'm also out socializing. So I'm not like in a dark room by myself, wrapped in a blanket, like I'm out in public, but I'm also so grateful for what I have. And then the ride home is almost always in dead silence. And I'm just like still thinking about how grateful I am for the business, for my family, for my health, for my life, for the decisions I've made that have gotten me here. That kills fear, doubt, overwhelm, burnout, anxiety. I think gratefulness and gratitude kills everything negative in your life. And I think people just keep moving the goalpost. When I get to 30K a month, then I will be XYZ. And then they get to 30 grand a month and they're like, dude, when I do 50 grand a month, and they just keep moving the goalpost and they never stop to be grateful for where they're at. But I will caveat this: when you're grateful, you must have blissful dissatisfaction. You're blissfully dissatisfied, meaning you're radically grateful. You're loving where you're at, but you're also dissatisfied and you want more. Most people are just dissatisfied. And complacent people are just blissfully happy. Oh yeah, I'm at 20K a month and they never want anything more. They kind of hit their peak. For me, I'm blissfully dissatisfied. I'm grateful for where I'm at, but I'm also hungry to go get more.
And I think that's a good state to be, in that contented zone that I think so many people miss. So many people miss. And I think you're right, man. I think you're right. I want to get your, take on your business here, coaching company. Like you've, built this arsenal of skill set of sales and management and now training people. Like when you got into coaching, like let's shift gears with asking you about some of that. Because I know lead gen is a big component of it. You've taken a different take on how you got some leads. Talk about how you've done it and what you would always suggest people to kind of lean into.
I kind of went the guerrilla warfare route, not the non-traditional route. So I've just never had a marketing brain. And like some people might challenge me, like, dude, that's a limiting belief, da da da. But it's like, I can't sing, I can't draw, I can't dance. I'm just not a creative person. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Marketing, I think, has a lot of creativity. Yes, there's strategy, but there's also creativity, thinking outside the box, doing some different things. My brain just doesn't work that way. And that's okay. I know where I'm strong, I know where I'm weak, and don't care to develop and get stronger. And so I tried the whole paid ads route: follower ads, DM ads, VSL funnels, lead magnets. Like I've spent close to 200 grand on ads and agencies. So it's not like I didn't try. But what has been the biggest single unlock for me was I paid this guy $8,000 to join his coaching program. That's where you and I met. I paid him $8,000 at the beginning of 2024. So about a year and a half ago. And it was to learn ads. Started running the ads. They didn't really work. However, he had a sales questions channel in his Slack community, and it was kind of being tended to, kind of not, because he's a marketer, not a sales guy, but he had the channel there. And I hit him up and I said, hey, man, I know I'm new to the community. I don't want to step on any toes, but I know the answers to everything these people are asking. Like, is it cool if I just pop in and answer it? He's like, dude, I would love that. Makes the community more valuable. Like, go ahead. So I had no clients really at the time. I just started dropping answers, Loom videos, paragraphs. Like I was just going to town. It was all stuff I knew and didn't want anything for it, didn't ask for any money. But it was just the reciprocity where I was like, if I just pour in, it gives me something to do and it helps these people. Like maybe good things will happen. Who knows? I just did it. Well, one of the guys reached out. He's like, "Hey, man, I really appreciate you answering that. I see you're a sales coach. I think I have a sales problem. Can we talk about it?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. Let me check my calendar. Pretty busy right now. Totally wide open. Like I got nothing." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'd love to chat with you. Get on a call with him. Perfect fit for my program." And I close him for, at that time, it was 9 grand. So I close him for 9K. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I got a client." He was like probably like my fifth or sixth client. The rest had came from just like my network that I beat over the head to hire me when I first launched. Well, I took him from a $3,500 program to a $5,000 program in an 18% close rate to a 45% close rate in a couple of months. Well, when I did that, everybody in the community saw him growing, the wins channel blowing up with his post. They started asking him, "Dude, you're growing like crazy. You've been here for a couple months. Like, what happened?" I hired the guy with the mustache. They started reaching out to me, and I did this 4 times, three, four, five, 6x their businesses, just like 4 of them. Well, then the leader, Jeremy, of that group, he saw what was happening with those 4 people. And by the way, I paid him for those, like a kickback. I was like, "Hey, man, I got them from your community. I'd love to pay you. Run my credit card. Here you go." Well, he got on a call with me. He's like, "How much would I have to pay you for you to coach all of my clients in sales? Because you're obviously really good at this stuff." And I said, let me think about that. How about I pay you to coach all of your clients in sales? And he kind of looked at me. He's like, "How would that work?" And I told him, I was like, "I'll do a group call for free every single Tuesday. And anytime I get a one on one client from your program, I'll pay you a kickback on that because that's the acquisition cost. I got them from your group." He was like, "Done." Now I've paid him over 6 figures. Last year, I think I made 700 grand from that one group call every single Tuesday. I still do it to this day. Last year was about 700 grand came from that 1 hour a week, and then paying him without fail on the back end, the kickbacks as a thank you for letting me do that. So that's been by far my best lead generation strategy, was actually partnering up with someone who taught marketing, not sales. I taught sales, which was then a home run. So now that his clients had marketing and sales, their wins, their testimonials, their results just went absolutely crazy. So it made his program more valuable, put a bunch of money in my pocket, helped all of our clients get rich together. It was like a perfect storm of opportunity for everybody to win. So that's been my best thing. Now
Yeah.
I'm doing podcasts, speaking on stages, networking events, associating with higher level people that have good networks to run in. It's a lot of guerrilla warfare, boots on the ground, time in the trenches, but that's what's worked incredibly well for me, is that one strategic partnership.
It's so interesting how those kind of bridge the gap. And I think people aren't really creative in looking out of a way of trying to connect that. And I think partnerships are a big one, associations that you're part of that I think people miss and or at least maximize to the fullest. I think that's a really unique take on it. Why the shift though into being on stages and doing all of that other part of stuff? Is it just for growth or scale? I mean, what's your take on that?
I love it. I think there's something special about standing on a stage, commanding a room with 30 people, 200 people, 500 people, whatever it is. Like that, I think that's really special. And that to me is a lot of fun. It's also great for content, great for credibility, and it's kind of one to many, right? Like I just went to California a couple weeks ago, spoke in front of 115 sales reps in the room. They're a captive audience for 45 minutes. Like, unless they got to go to the bathroom, they're not going anywhere. Like, imagine if somebody sat and listened to a YouTube video of yours for 45 minutes straight. They're probably going to fall in love with you. They're probably going to trust you way more. They're going to want to do business with you. They're going to go watch more of your videos after that. If you can captivate somebody for 45 minutes straight, and then on top of that, if you do it in person, I think it's really powerful because they can feel your energy in the room. So I think that the podcast, whether it's virtual or in person, is great for long form. You can share a lot of wisdom and people see kind of the behind the scenes of who you are, which is helpful. They kind of see your heart and your intentions rather than a 12-second video on Instagram. And then the stages is also great because like you're quite literally on the stage. So people are looking up to you like you're the authority. And as long as you deliver a ton of value, I think it's a lot of fun and the audience gets a lot of value and you inevitably get some clients from that as well.
Yeah, man. I want to ask you, how are you using AI right now in your business? How are you connecting the dots there? Are you having your team use it a lot? Are you using it a lot? How do you go about that?
So I'm a laggard meaning I'm slow to adopt new things. Like, I'm such a simple person. My personal life is simple. My friendships are simple. Like, my business is super simple. Like, when people hear that I make between 150 and $200,000 a month working 4 days a week with one part-time assistant and one part-time personal assistant, they kind of just, they're like, but how? Simplicity. And my clients get crazy results. I have one piece of AI in my business, and it's a tool that one of my clients actually created for me that helps people build their sales script. So you punch in all of this information about your business, and then the AI tool basically creates 10 discovery questions for each of the 11 topics of discovery that you need to hit. And then you're not going to ask all 10, obviously, because that'd be 110 total. It'd be crazy. But you pick out your best, your favorite two, three, four. And then that gives you an arsenal of questions to ask during discovery on a sales call. That's the only piece of AI, but I do have on my list because another client created one where you can upload the transcript of your sales call and it grades each section of the sales call, like one, two, three, tells you what you did good, tells you what you did bad. So I didn't create it, but I think it's cool. I'll probably just take it from him if he's cool with it and then give it to the rest of the clients.
Clever, clever.
I'm pretty slow though, man. New stuff rolls out. I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Could it be better? Maybe. But things are simple and clients are winning and like businesses are blowing up. So it's like I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
How can people follow you and connect with you more, man?
Yeah, either Instagram or YouTube. So Instagram is at Austin Medlin. And then YouTube is just at Austin Medlin.
Perfect. I'll put those links down below. Go connect with Austin. He's a cool guy. Hopefully, you guys get a lot of value from today's conversation. Go check out those descriptions. Go check out that workshop I mentioned, and we'll see you on the next part of the show.